Even though Desmond wasn't in this episode, I couldn't help but think Desmond was right. We found out this episode that the Bene Gesserit has been using an AI to do their genetic archiving this entire time.
And that is why it is so troubling that we are being controlled again.
And I think Vorian Atreides, the one that Valia is looking for, is Keiran Atreides. So in this video, we're breaking it all down. And like always, I won't spoil anything from the books for non-book readers. I think the first thing we need to start with is who exactly is Vorian Atreides. His name cast a huge shadow over Valia Harkonnen and the entire first season of Dune Prophecy. But for us to understand exactly who he is, we have to go back to the war with the Thinking Machines, aka the Butlerian Jihad. Vorian Atreides was the first member of House Atreides, taking the name Atreides after he rebelled against his father. And this is where things get a little interesting, because Vorian's father was Agamemnon. Agamemnon was a Cymek, a fusion between human and machine. Yes, during the time of machine dominance, it got to the point where human and machine could combine, which is why the machine started oppressing humanity in the first place. Agamemnon and 19 other individuals known as the Titans, who ruled most of the universe, as they grew older, were afraid of death and didn't want to relinquish the power they had, so they came up with the idea to transfer their minds into the body of machines, thus creating the first Cymeks, who are essentially half human, half machine. Machine body, machine lifespan, but with the human mind. Ultimately, as a result of that, created the AI Omnimus, the ultimate thinking machine, fully AI that takes over the universe from the half human, half machine Cymeks, seeing humanity as less than and deserving to be oppressed, which is why Omnimus oppressed humanity. But seeing as the Cymeks were half human, half machine, it afforded these Titans a more comfortable and lavish life where they lived as celebrities. That is until Agamemnon's son, Vorian Atreides, comes along. Vorian betrayed his father and the other Titans and helped humanity rise against the machines, ultimately winning the war. But it was during one of the final battles of the war where his beef with House Harkonnen began. And really the beef comes from a misinterpretation, if we're being honest. During one of the final battles against the Thinking Machines, to make a final push, Vorian was willing to sacrifice 2 million human lives in order to deal a death blow to the machines. However, Valia's great-grandfather, Abulurd Harkonnen, aka Abulurd Butler, and we're going to get into that last name switch in a second, decided that he wasn't going to sacrifice 2 million lives, and because he disagreed with Vorian, he was arrested, branded a coward, and Vorian went on to lead the final battle against the machines, ultimately freeing humanity, while the Harkonnen name itself was forever ruined. Kinda like mine will be if you don't click the subscribe button. But back to the Harkonnen, and because of his unwillingness to sacrifice human lives, he was branded a traitor and a coward, so they stripped him of his birth name because Abulurd Harkonnen's birth name was Abulurd Butler, as in the same butlers that started the Butlerian Jihad. So you see how far the Harkonnen family tree has fallen. They went from one of the most storied houses, the leaders of the rebellion actually, as part of the legendary house whose name is synonymous with the revolution against the Thinking Machines, the Butlerian Jihad. So they strip him of his butler last name, give him his mom's maiden name, Harkonnen, banish him to that desolate planet Lankivo, and that's where House Harkonnen has been, and that's essentially where we find Valia during her flashback, living in squalor because of a lie, essentially. However, during this flashback, we learned that Valia didn't learn the voice at the Sisterhood Academy. She actually had the voice from even before she was a member of the Sisterhood, way back on Lankivo, and the very first time she's ever used it was to help her brother who was drowning, Griffin Harkonnen. And we learned something interesting that I didn't know about the voice. The voice can actually make you do things you didn't know how to do. For example, Griffin was drowning, he didn't know how to swim, and because Valia commanded him to swim, something in his brain allowed him to do so. Because the human body has the ability to swim, the voice as a form of human evolution allowed Griffin's body to supersede his actual knowledge. What sucks shortly after that is Griffin dies, and the interesting thing about this death is it's blamed on Vorian Atreides, perceived as another slight by House Atreides to House Harkonnen. So you guys can kind of see how far this blood beef goes, over 10,000 years, and we see it even at the time of Paul Atreides going on hard. But I don't know if you guys noticed that Vorian is active and involved in Abulurd's great-grandchildren's lives, showing you just how long he's lived. Because of who his father was, Keiran has lived a long life, and throughout the Dune mythos, he's taken on different identities and different names. So I wouldn't be surprised if Keiran is actually Vorian. Keep that in mind for later on because he has a weird life cycle, and the same thing could be applied to sister Rakella because Rakella and Vorian fought together against the Thinking Machines in their youth. Both of them could have gotten disillusioned with the Imperium, thus why Rakella created the Sisterhood to control it, and why Keiran aka Vorian is also working with the Revolution in order to upend the Imperium. That goes to show the two different paths of human evolution. Vorian's evolution is more so towards the mechanical side, Rakella's is more on the biological evolution side. And we know Rakella's very pro-human evolution, so when Valia used the voice on her for the first time, she knew that Valia was going to be her successor. Valia was already more evolved than Dorothea, especially after Dorothea came back from the Butlers, which I found interesting this episode. It focuses heavy on the families involved during the Butlerian Jihad, such as the Atreides, the Harkonnens, and even the Butlers. We know that Dorothea was assigned to the Butlers, and when she came back essentially a religious zealot, believing very much in the Orange Bible against the Thinking Machines. What I think happened and what caused Rakella to replace Dorothea as the next head of the Sisterhood is that after Dorothea was assigned to the Butlers, she learned a lot about the Butlerian Jihad and just how terrible thinking machines are, because that jihad, the war against the machines, was one of the bloodiest conflicts to have ever happened in human history. We're talking about billions and billions of lives lost fighting against the thinking machines, and just how callous the machines were, and just what humanity had to do to overcome them. So Dorothea had a new perspective and a new understanding of just how terrible machines were. We learned in the end that Rakella was using forbidden thinking machine technology, and that would have put her in direct juxtaposition with her granddaughter, which is why she circumvented her and went with Valia Harkonnen. So let's talk about this forbidden technology and the Sisterhood's hypocrisy. Desmond was right all along. The Sisterhood is corrupt, and it goes way beyond what he actually thinks, or maybe he does know about this technology. So let's look at exactly what it is. At the end of the episode, when Tula goes into the genetic library to save Lila's life, we learn that the Sisterhood has been using an AI named Anirul to conduct its genetic archiving, which is both disappointing and interesting at the same time. Now it makes a lot of sense how the Sisterhood was able to know exactly what genetic pairs to match, and how they were able to conduct and maneuver and find the best matches for over 10,000 years. It was never them, it was actually an AI doing the computations. But it's disappointing at the same time, because the Sisterhood is all about human evolution and evolution through the natural biological way. But they were cheating this entire time. Instead of using actual genetic chance, they were using an AI algorithm that allowed them to find the perfect match, therefore making it look like it's not an actual form of human evolution, but an actual AI algorithm evolution. What's also interesting by the name Anirul, it comes up later on in the Dune stories, and I'm keeping it as spoiler free for the non-book readers as possible, but Anirul, whose name comes from Mother Rakella's full actual name, Rakella Berto Anirul, might just be an AI trained on Rakella's mind, which makes what happens next super interesting. Because Tula decided not to kill Lila and instead have Anirul save her life, remember Lila's mind is still in her other memory right now, and being trapped in that other memory giving Dorothea, the one who's holding her captive, more chances to come back. It's going to be very interesting to see if Dorothea is able to use Anirul to bring Lila back, and with Lila having the information of what happened to her family in her mind, and Rakella finding out what exactly Valia did. But not just that, what if Rakella knew and was okay with it, and Dorothea finds out that Rakella was using thinking machines this entire time? Remember, she's very anti-thinking machine and believes very strictly in the Orange Bible against the machines. Even though in the first episode the Emperor didn't do anything to the Rachese's boy, the consequence for having a thinking machine is death. And with Desmond in the Emperor's ear now, Valia's life is really in danger. Not just because of that, but also because of the young Atreides boy that Tula let live at the end of the flashback, showing that Tula may be the downfall to what Valia is trying to build. With her letting the Atreides boy go, which let the other great houses of the Imperium know who was behind the murder of the Atreides, and also they didn't even kill Vorian at that time. Because of her slip up, everyone further sullied the House Harkonnen's name, and with her not killing Lila, allowing Dorothea to take over her body. And I want to clarify a little bit. When I say taking over her body, I don't mean literally taking over her body. What I mean to say is, when she gets the memories that she gets from her ancestors and she starts to understand just who the Harkonnen sisters are, she's going to move more akin to Dorothea, her maternal grandmother, than actually siding with the Harkonnens, because she sees just how far they're willing to go, to the point that they actually sacrificed her to get some knowledge. So you can see how Dorothea's influence could reach out to her, especially pointing out the hypocrisy of them using thinking machines and manipulating the Imperium as opposed to guiding it. It's supposed to be sisterhood above all, but it looks like Valia and her sister are putting House Harkonnen above all, which goes against the fundamental principles of the sisterhood in the first place. It's threatening to put a sisterhood apart, especially with Desmond being the potential first Kwisatz Haderach, but that's a topic for another video. But guys, that's it for the breakdown of this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, peace.